Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Evolve Africa, where we are constantly changing to become better people. Joining us again is Caroline Gichia, CEO of Wellness Sport and a clinical psychologist. So today we'll be talking about one of my favorite topics, how to marry right. So Caroline, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me again. Yes.
Yeah. So how to marry right? I think marriage is one of the things that is on a crisis at this particular moment. Like everybody is separating, divorcing. And so like it brings down to, are we marrying the wrong way? Are we not looking at the right things? So how do we marry right to ensure we marry for life and not for a moment as it is at the moment?
Wow, that's a huge question, really, if you ask me. Yeah, where do I start with this? Do we start with, developing yourself since childhood? Do we start at, the dating stage? But anyway, I think maybe I'd like to approach it from the perspective of marriage itself as an institution. It requires competence. Yeah, it requires certain competence outside of just the romance and love and all that brings a couple together. Keeping it together requires people who have competence and also responsibility. What does that mean? No matter how much you love somebody and no matter how much you cannot imagine being without them in your life, to the extent that you actually went and, got into a legal marriage with them, if this person gets to a point where they are not accountable for anything, it is impossible to continue with that person. If that person does not have any competence in terms of being able to communicate, being able to be reliable with some things to be done as a couple or as a unit, being able to coordinate things within the family, it becomes, if the love and the inability to live with them becomes a moot point. So that's the part that usually is not even, discussed during the dating stage.
Yes, because we are only looking at tall, dark, and handsome. What else at this moment? Financially stable. So yes, it goes deeper than that. So is age, because when I was in my early 20s, my list was that tall, dark, and handsome as compared to what my list is at this particular moment.
All right.
So is age a major factor that contributes on how to marry right?
Age is a contributory factor to some extent because, couples who marry when they are very young, and by very young, I mean, you can imagine marrying below the age of 23, for example. Those marriages are more likely to end in divorce. Why do I say that? Because at that age, in terms of, we can look at it from a developmental stage, in human development, neurodevelopmentally, even the brain is still forming pathways. Yeah. Myelination is still going on, it's not ended. So there's still an aspect of maturity from a neurobiological perspective that's still not complete. And also at that point still there's higher impulsivity, there's higher selfishness levels, and it's still part of the maturation process. That's why you'd say, for example, your list was tall, dark, handsome. And it was about, gratification really at that point. Yeah. What will this man do for me? What will this woman do for me? So it doesn't go deeper than that at that point because it's all about, fulfilling certain desires. Probably your list now would have other things.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yes.
Because again, you have changed. Every day, every new experience we have, even apart from just the normal human growth and development, you become richer in experience and you've met different people and you have a better idea of what it takes. You're even more competent as a person, even when it comes to things like work. So what it takes to, to achieve things, how much investment things take before, they become fruitful. You have more resilience, you develop more resilience as you continue, achieving more milestones in adulthood. Yeah. And also, you start, what can I call it? At that time, below 23, 24, 21, 19, it was all about what do I get? But as you grow older, you learn to be less judgy of people and to manage expectations more. You live more in reality, whereas before it was fantasy. So age definitely is a factor. Yes.
So what should be the right age for a man to marry and for a woman to marry?
I would not say there is a right age. There are people who are still able to, form lasting unions, even when they do it at very early adulthood, before that age I'm talking about, before that age of 24. So there is no such thing as right age. It's more about the right, let me call it the right emotional age, or the right, mental age. Have you gotten to a point where you're fully responsible for yourself as an adult? You're able to be less selfish. You're able to, operate in reality, in the real world, where you understand there are bills, there are responsibilities, there is illness, there is, in some cases, aging parents. Just having a good grasp of reality and, what it takes to adult.
To adult.
Yes.
So what I hear you say is we need to work on ourselves first before we can look for that other person.
What I'm saying is we need to grow up first. Really growing up is the thing. Yes.
Yeah. So in this era where, on YouTube, so many young people are having YouTube channels and they're calling, I don't know what family, and they do all the things that people in a marriage do. So how important is it to do like a church wedding or to have an official ceremony before like committing to that person?
Well, in terms of having an official ceremony, it depends on culture. Those are things that are vary from culture to culture. If in your culture, and each culture all over the world, most cultures, they have, they have there are several processes or several stages in life that are marked by certain events. Like, for example, most cultures, they have things surrounding birth, when you have a child. There's also cultural customs surrounding, like, adulthood, at what point children become considered as adults. There's circumcision and initiation ceremonies in most cultures. Same to do with marriage, same to do with, again, the first child. And of course, there are also ceremonies to do with death. Yeah. So in whatever culture it is that you come from, or whatever religious background, there is merit to doing the ceremonies that are associated with that culture. Yes. Because it really impacts the seriousness of that step that you've taken, the next stage in your life. And it's also a way of being, it increases, there's the cultural acceptance, there's the, blessing of the community and all that. So yes, it does help to do that. But it is not necessarily what makes a marriage. There are people who just do a legal document wherever it is, and it's still a marriage. Yes, for sure.
So Caroline, what do you look for in a partner to ensure you have a successful marriage?
So what do you look for in a partner? Yeah. There are several things that go into compatibility. One of the big one of the big things is the ability to compromise. I think I would put it like that. Yeah? It's because what determines your success as a couple, even the longevity of the relationship, is not just how you like the same things. You know, when you ask a 7-year-old, what will your wife have? He'll say, she has to like ice cream like me. Yeah. A girl might say, oh, he has to buy me pretty dresses, whatever it is. Yeah. So it's beyond that. Just being very similar with somebody or liking all the same things does not really guarantee that a relationship will last. The ability to, negotiate, like most of life is a negotiation, yes? So the ability to negotiate, compromise, communicate, show affection, deal with problems as a team, those are the things that determine whether a relationship will really last.
And how do you determine that this person has those things?
First of all, this generation, everybody is just running so fast. So fast into, making either a commitment or just getting into a relationship. And, everything is romanticized in that, of course, I love her. We'll make it work. Or the other thing I've heard is, we're having a baby. I got her pregnant, so we're going to make it work. We are a family now already.
It's funny. Lawrence jokes about it. He says it's this nowadays marriages starts with, "Oops, I'm pregnant."
Yes.
Yes.
Other people, in fact, have had the experiences. People don't even propose anymore. They're like, now I think it would be good for us to see your parents because I want to be, staying with my child officially, And honestly, a child is not a basis for a marriage. Yeah. Having going through financial difficulties and deciding, well, it would be better if we live in one house. Yeah. That is not a basis for a marriage. Convenience is not a basis for a marriage. Yeah. Other reasons people put is social pressure. Just because every time you go home, your parents are asking, so when am I going to see grandchildren? Or where is the person? We want to see the person, bring the person. Yes. Again, and then you find somebody just settles down with the first person who they date after going through that pressure. Again, that's not a basis for a marriage. Really, this is unromantic. However, like, you need to think about, this is the person you're going to pay bills with. You're going to split responsibilities. You're going to raise children, perhaps if you plan to have children in your marriage. Yes. So you need to, go a bit deeper. Is this the person I'm going to raise children with? Would I be happy if my children turned out like him or like her? Yeah. Yeah. Because that figure is not going to raise your children.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's more to it than that. Is this the kind of person who I will take care of them when they're sick? Is this the kind of person who will take care of me when I'm sick? So it goes beyond just the animal attraction.
Yeah.
It takes a bit more to make it last.
I think we skipped. So how do we even date? Like, do you date committing to this one, to this one? How do you date to get to that person?
Well, a lot of people don't even know what they want.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So it would be important to think, what do you want? What are your values? If, for example, you come from a background where, I'll just use this as an example. You come from a background where alcohol use is part of the culture. I can name, like, for example, in Meru culture, Kikuyu culture, Kamba, like several cultures in Kenya, for example, alcohol use is embedded in the culture. In fact, to the extent that it's even part of bride price. It's part of the, dowry negotiations. So you could come from such a culture, and then your partner or your intended partner comes from a culture where, for example, the idea of alcohol being there is like, it's scandalous even. It's just not done. Yeah. It could be religious, it could be also cultural. Yeah. So let's say your partner is probably from, northern Kenya. So there's a traditional aspect plus now religious aspect. Maybe there's the heavy influence of Muslim culture. So the idea of alcohol is just not going to be done.
Yeah.
So many people, they will not even get to that conversation until they are in too deep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's important to know, even as you're dating, are your values going to be compatible? Because again, this person could come from that culture and be comfortable with the idea of alcohol. You could come from this culture where alcohol is embedded and be comfortable with alcohol free for the rest of your life. I mean, it's all about, do our values come together somewhere? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this another big pointer? People tend to reach for, I don't know, human beings tend to sometimes want to struggle. We want what we can't have.
Yeah. It's true.
It's part of human nature. And when you get something, there's that desire for something bigger, more. And it's embedded in us, right? But now, when we make that mistake when dating or choosing a partner, for example, you'll find that you're going after somebody who you cannot be yourself with. You're trying to date somebody who you have to perform for.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that I have noticed in a lot of relationships.
So what I hear you say, it's we start making mistakes from dating. We start bringing our representative
Oh, yes.
into dating instead of bringing our
Yourself.
real self, because you want to close on that girl and that man very quickly before
they realize it's not you.
yes. And so we present what they want to the table and not who we really are. And so the compatibility is not really there, but we can't see it from the beginning because we are all performing.
Yes. And yet, it's hard to say we can't see it from the beginning because we knew.
Yeah, that instinct.
You knew you were not being yourself. You were not being genuine. And you force this, how do I invite you in relationships? How do I invite you to relate to an image of myself that I'm creating? How can I invite you to relate to somebody that doesn't exist, a me that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Doesn't that mean I'm rejecting myself? Yeah? How can you invite me to relate to your representative instead of yourself? So you see, energy doesn't lie. So there's always that, there's that disconnect, and you'll always notice or you'll always feel it and ignore it.
Yes.
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 So if you're trying to have a relationship that will last, this is not for the people who are trying to have flings. That one works with its own dynamics, right? If you want something that will last, you need to invite somebody to relate to you. You yourself, not your representative, not the person who you think other people want to see. Not some image that you thought, okay, this is how I'm going to be when I become the perfect husband. Or this is how I'm going to be when I become the perfect wife, girlfriend, boyfriend. Yes.
So what I hear you say is compatibility is very important. So compatibility, is it the signs that people look for, a Libra, what? Or so compatibility, connection, chemistry. On a scale of like how important are they and how should they follow each other? Which is the most important to look out for? And what are they? What is compatibility? What is
Tough one.
chemistry? What is connection?
Connection is, I think, let me start there. Connection is about whether you're able to be yourself with that person, whether you're able to, hold space for each other as you truly are.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. That's the first one I would like to, maybe speak more on. Then in terms of compatibility means a lot of things. It's like the umbrella. Compatibility comes with, are you compatible in terms of values? Are you compatible in terms of culture? And can you make it work, Are you compatible in terms of chemistry? Because physical attraction is, it's critically important in a marriage. This is a relationship which has a very which is sexual in nature. Yeah. There's the sexual chemistry that needs to be there. There's also other, types of chemistry in terms of do you genuinely enjoy being with that person? Does your energy work together, or are you always,
Bumping heads.
bouncing off each other,
Yeah.
or just always conflicting?
Can you
Yes.
build chemistry?
Oh yeah, sure.
You can?
Chemistry can be built for sure, and of course it's built. It's always built actually. Of course, there's that first attraction, but chemistry is always built.
Yeah.
It's built with, spending time interacting, showing concern. Yeah? You build chemistry even when, solving problems together, doing projects together.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
it's always built. It's not stagnant. Even
Yes.
in a long-term relationship, it's not something that you'll say, oh, we have chemistry, so it stays there.
Yeah.
It's something that has to be. It's like a dance.
Yeah. Even in a team, like a football team.
Yes.
The coach helps them to build chemistry with each other so that they can play better. So I agree. So what are those important things, that you need to discuss before you get into a marriage?
Yes. These are the conversations we need to start having.
Yes.
And many people shy away from having these conversations because sometimes you worry, oh, she'll think I'm too serious, I'm coming on too strong.
And people don't want questions.
Yes. Or for women, sometimes they're like, oh, no, I don't want it to be so serious. But, I mean, this is your life. This is a relationship. I mean, this is, even when it comes to things to do with sex, that is the most serious thing there is. That's intimacy.
Yeah.
There's no need to go into a situation without actually communicating about it and assuming things will just resolve themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. And yet this is yourself. It's not like you do more research when you're looking for a job, and yet a job is not something that you work there, you do some work for them and everything, but you do more research for that than when you are actually bringing your entire self into something.
I agree.
I think it's ridiculous.
100%. It is.
Yes.
It is.
So if you actually want to get into a lasting relationship, you have to have those conversations. Chemistry, trust, love, enduring love, like it's built with it's built with actual communication. You need to relate to somebody as yourself. And if there's this thing people do in relationships where let me let me ingilia men a bit for this one. Yes. Okay. You'll meet a man, the wife has done something repeatedly that annoys him. For the last 9 years, he never told him, pretended he was okay with it. Like from the first date, it's been like that. It's like part of their status quo. And in some cases, you'll find the man is like, no, it's okay. I can just suffer through this.
Why do they do that?
So he never communicated about it, never expressed displeasure. Every time the wife does it, he gets pissed off.
Yeah, but keeps quiet.
But never addresses it.
Why?
Then one day, it happens again, and this is the last straw. And he will walk out.
And the woman won't know what the problem is.
And the woman won't know. The worst thing is, sometimes even the woman doesn't know even during the divorce process. Yeah? Why? You've been taken to the edge so many times but you don't, you don't advocate for yourself. So one day it's just the straw that breaks the camel's back, and you're just done.
Is it safe to say that we don't teach our boys or our men how to communicate?
Yeah, definitely. That's a whole other ball game anyway. But yes, sometimes men grow up with there's so much pressure. It's hard to be a man right now. There's so much chaos and social pressure in the life of a man that sometimes they may feel like they have to just get used to problems and stress. It's like everything in their life, it's always problems. Yeah. Same things happens to women sometimes. Although I have to say, in my experience, I've seen it more with men. If you do not communicate to your partner, then the weird thing that happens is you expect them to just magically know that you don't like something. And they don't. So what happens? They repeat it. They repeat it, and sometimes it even escalates. So if you are at the point where you're not relating to somebody in a genuine manner, like you're not yourself, this woman met your representative. So changing your behavior now will make them wonder, okay, are we okay? Do you not love me anymore? Same thing. If your partner does this to you as a woman, and you're like okay with it, and yet you are uncomfortable, you never stated it, it will be repeated until the day when you'll be completely pissed off and you won't take it anymore. So it's more about learning to, state these things, talk about these things.
Do we all communicate the same way?
No. There are different communication styles. Now, I want to address one particular communication style that is very problematic. Silent treatment.
Yeah.
Silent treatment is problematic. It's actually considered abusive. Yeah? Of course, depending on the duration.
Because it creates a lot of anxiety.
And it's important for you to communicate with your partner about how you react to things. For example, if my partner does something to me and I'm angry about it, and I decide to respond by being silent, I could have many excuses or I could have many reasons, not necessarily excuses, reasons as to why that's my go-to. I could come and say, actually, I went into silent treatment. I had to be silent first because I was very angry, and if I'd actually addressed this immediately, it would have been ugly. Yes? So that could be a reason. So what do? You come with your partner and you negotiate. Okay, then, if that's the problem, when can we resolve it? How long do you need to cool down before we can now address it? Yeah. So if you're able to do that, then you pick a time when you can actually solve the issue. Now, if that is one partner's communication style and the other one likes addressing things head on, there will be conflict, of course. And there will always be conflict in relationships anyway. We are all different. Yes? So if it gets to that point, you can come and say, okay, we need to resolve this within, maybe give me a few hours, we'll do it in the evening. Give me 2 days, we'll talk about it on Friday,
Yeah.
However, if silent treatment continues and it becomes a pattern, for imagine like 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, months, and this is a husband and a wife. In the morning, they just wake up, they go to work, one drops the other, perhaps everything else is going on, but radio silence, they are not speaking to each other. It can be very, as you said, anxiety-inducing in the partner who's not being spoken to. Yeah, and then now you find out the other partner is retaliating in other ways. So that's one of the things to learn when you're in the dating phase, how the other party communicates.
So there's silent treatment, there's the ones who address them immediately. Which other communication styles are there?
There are others who are more aggressive, probably shouting in terms of anger management. And that's why, especially when you start doing premarital counseling, for example, it's important to learn emotional regulation. That's one of the first things you need to, deal with. How to regulate your own emotions. If you're very angry or very sad or very stressed, because sometimes you might find one person is stressed at work, I come home, I take it out on my partner, or vice versa. Depending on my style, maybe I'm stressed at work, so I'm coming home, I will not talk. So my partner gets stressed thinking he's done something wrong, and yet it has nothing to do with him. Just being able to communicate, actually, my problem is work related, I'm not in a good place, I need X amount of time. Yeah? Vice versa, comes stressed at work, yells at the watchman, yells at the cat, yells at the dog, yells at the children. So those are things now that when you now do something like premarital counseling, or even yourself as you sit down and teach yourself how to regulate your emotions, it really helps in terms of having fruitful long-term relationships. Yes.
So how are some of the ways you can emotionally regulate?
Emotional regulation. Now, emotional regulation is about learning to you accept your feelings. Yes? You hold your feelings instead of trying to push them away. Yeah. Like if we were to do an example, if I tell you now, don't think about cats. Don't think about a cat. You even start looking for the cat.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Like, but you continue, and the more pressure you put on your mind, you're like, no, I'm not going to think about a cat. The more it comes. Yeah? So the more you push away the emotion, the more it manifests in your, it comes in your mind. Sometimes it can even come to your body.
So allow yourself to feel, sit with the emotion and ask yourself what the emotion is trying to tell you.
You don't even need to ask anything. Just learning to sit with the emotion.
Yeah.
Sit with the emotion, accept.
I'm angry.
I am angry. And allow yourself time. You there's that temptation to forget about it because it's putting you in a bad mood. Learn to sit with that emotion and accept that you're angry. Yeah?
Yeah.
Then after you feel it, learn how to respond, not to react. If I'm angry and I'm trying to avoid, that emotion,
You will react.
I'm very easily triggered.
That's true.
You will come in here and everything about you will annoy me. You have not done anything to me. Yeah?
Yeah.
But if I need to take some time away and, sit with that emotion, so be it. If I can sit with it in your presence, so be it. Everybody has a different style of dealing with their emotions, yeah? But the important thing is to sit with it.
Yeah.
Yeah? Many people who get into substance abuse, drinking problems away, it's because you're trying to avoid certain emotions. You're avoiding your anger, your pain, usually pain, sadness, fear. So if I learn to sit with this, I don't need to go and drink it away. I don't need to go and smoke it away. Yeah?
Oh my gosh,
I don't need to go and, drive carelessly, seek out adrenaline activities. I don't need to do all that.
Yeah.
I don't need to go and gamble it away, So it's about learning to sit with it. And then if I can sit with it and I allow myself and I respect my needs emotionally, then I'm able to get to a point where you triggering my anger is not going to trigger me all the time. I can be able to manage it and respond instead of react. If I react, I'm going to either just shut down completely silent treatment or I'm going to start shouting at you.
Yeah.
But if I can sit with it, I'll be like, okay, give me a bit. Go, come back and go okay, you did this, it angered me. This is why.
Yeah.
Can we do this next time?
So does it mean if you sit with it, the next time a similar occurrence happens, it won't bring back the emotions? Like if someone hurt you, and you're in a situation where something similar is about to happen, doesn't mean it won't trigger those emotions because you regulated.
Now, learning emotional regulation is a process. When you've worked through that particular thing, yes, it will reach a point where you're no longer triggered.
Really?
Yeah, it does. But for this, while you're in that process, understand that you will be triggered. Understand that there are things that will make you angry. Understand that there are things your partner might do that will remind you of your annoying ex.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
There are things your partner will do that will remind you of your mother or your father, or your sister or your brother. Ways that they triggered you since you were a kid and you had not learned how to regulate your emotions. So you will be triggered, but it's more about learning how to plan for that and accepting it. And once you accept it, you can figure out, oh yeah, actually, I'm not actually mad because of this. I'm mad because I feel unloved.
Yeah. Yeah. It takes a lot of vulnerability to say that. I'm feeling unloved. You'd rather react.
You'd rather react and be very tough.
Yes.
Which does not help anybody.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of having a relationship? What's the point of having a partner where you can't be yourself?
Yeah.
Where you can't be vulnerable? What's the point? It's not a business arrangement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in most relationships, I see people putting scores, Like,
Yes.
I reached out this time, I will not reach out this time. So how do you ensure you're not putting scores in a relationship?
Well, at the risk of sounding controversial, I will not say that keeping score is something you should never do. It's more of, okay, the fact that you're keeping scores, that's feedback. What does that tell you about yourself and the relationship?
What does it tell you about yourself?
If, for example, you could be struggling about anything. It could be a struggle about, I feel unimportant in this relationship. Why am I the one who always reaches out? It could be, I feel like this woman is amenizoea sana. you know?
Yeah.
She takes me for granted. So I am tired of giving. So whatever it is that has brought you to that point in your relationship, sit down, figure out what it is. And then once you figure out, okay, this is why, decide what you're going to do about it. Decide what you're going to communicate about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I heard you talk about childhood a lot. So how does childhood, you talked about exes, how does traumas play a role in your relationship?
Okay, so from a psychology perspective now, we can look at it from a perspective of attachment styles. And attachment styles are developed in childhood. Yes. And the one need that a human baby is born with is the need to attach. The most basic, to attach to a primary caregiver. And there's that instinct. The first instinct is to breastfeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you're born with only one thing that you're able to do, the ability to cry and ask for help. Yeah. No other animals in the world, they're born, they're able to run, walk. But for humans, your basic need for survival is to get help, is to get nurturing from that, primary caregiver or primary caregivers, usually the mother. So how your relationship with your parents or whoever took care of you as a child, that relationship is what shapes your whole makeup about attachment. And the best idea is to be securely attached, such that, when I cry, mom will give me milk. Yes?
Wow.
So children who experience, caregivers who listen to them, respond to their cries in a timely manner, who soothe them, touch. We are born with a need for, touch, soothing. Yeah. Children who get that become securely attached. Now, children whose parents are sometimes dismissive, they develop sometimes anxious attachment because they are not sure their needs will be met. Yeah. Others where caregivers sometimes present and sometimes they are not there. Like you'll find this in children who've grown up in children's homes where there is no single attachment. So they have disorganized attachment where anybody who comes, they love them, they want to hug them, they want to attach to them. Yeah. So depending on, background, childhood, that's where we develop attachment styles, and it determines how we relate to other people in our relationships. Yeah. But the good news is attachment style can change. You could be securely attached as a child, but now you date somebody who is abusive. Yeah. This woman would always abuse you, and then outside there she looked perfect, so nobody believed you. So you come to get to a point where you don't trust. You stop trusting women. Now you develop insecure attachment, yet you are securely attached. So that can happen.
So that can also happen as you're growing up.
Yes.
If you land in the wrong relationship.
Yes. And vice versa. You could have been an anxiously attached child. Yeah. But as you grow up, depending on the relationships you form along the way, if you might find like maybe your mom was all over the place, maybe was a druggie. There are different situations, or had to flee. You had to be refugees. But now eventually you attach to another figure, maybe your uncle or your aunt, and that person is solid in your life. You learn to be securely attached.
Can you teach yourself if there is no such person?
Yes, you can learn how to do secure attachment.
So people who are, I don't know if it's accurate, but people who are anxious, they tend to be attracted to avoiders.
Yes.
Why is that so?
Because again, you see, these things are so subconscious. You're kind of recreating the drama you had in your childhood. Yeah. So you see, when you are a kid, for survival, that was the only person you had. And you have to attach with them or you will die. You'll literally die. You have to attach to this person because they're the person giving you food. Yeah. So it comes to a point where in your brain, how your brain is wired, that is safety for you. That is your definition of love. That's your definition of safety. So let's give an example. Let's say you're an avoidant person. Yeah? Yeah. You might seek people who are anxiously attached, because maybe in your childhood, this is just an example. Yes. Maybe your mother was had some mental health issues, maybe. Yeah. Maybe she was depressed and she used to come to you for support. But you are a child, you can't really do all that. So you tend to find you're resenting her needing you. Yes. So you tend to be avoidant. You kind of detaching from her because you're supposed to be getting your needs met, but she's getting her needs met from you. So as you grow older, you'll find you're attracted to the man who's also anxious because it feels familiar and safe. Yeah. And he'll be attracted to you because you're avoidant, and probably that's what that's what maybe, it may not even be his childhood, maybe that's the people he's dated. Yeah. So it's kind of exciting for him. Yeah. So you find you play out a vicious cycle. Oh. Yes.
It's true. So you need to heal before you can date right and marry right. Because it will be a cycle.
It will be a cycle. You'll continue dating the same person in a different body.
Oh.
Yes. Because that's what you know as safety.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you say this generation, we are in a rush. So
yes,
sex. Most people are really rushing to have sex. And
yes.
Sex is just very casual nowadays. People meet within a few hours.
Not even days.
They've had sex. So how does it play into a successful marriage? And what is the timeline like people should wait for before they have sex?
What you can say is when people rush to have sex, you rush into this intimate bonded experience and you are thrusting all that intimacy and all that your actual self into a relationship which can't handle it yet. In some cases, there's no relationship. Again, I'm talking to the people who want relationships, not the people who are looking for flings and casual and all that. Yes. So when you do that, you're forcing something to be something it's not. It may not be able to handle that intensity. So it's important to, like let nature take its course. The same way there's always probation at work. When you hire somebody new, they are on probation for some period of time. And even after it ends, it takes time before they are entrusted with certain, high-level company documents. Same thing even with our relationships. We always do that. We always test people. Even when you're making a new friend, you always check how trustworthy they are. Yeah. You always check how willing they are to be, to come through for you, how involved they want to be in your life. Again, I go back to the same analogy. It's a delicate dance.
Yes.
Yes? Yes. So there's that behavior of mirroring. You do an action, they reflect that action back to you, do something else like that. Yeah. So the same way in a relationship, if you are looking for a long-term relationship that will survive, you need to take time to actually meet that person, not their representative.
The real person.
And when you do meet that person, be willing to meet them, hold space for them.
Yeah.
Don't say, oh, in my list, you are supposed to have dreadlocks.
The list.
You are supposed to have dreadlocks that go a certain way. So you need to start putting dreadlocks on your hair from now on. Or you need to start, we need to be home, both of us, at 7 p.m.
Yes.
So you have to leave your career in video production and get a 9 to 5 because I need you to be in the house by 7. You get what I'm saying? It's more because, again, if somebody really loves you and you put them in a situation where they have to be something in order to get affection, then the only option is to lie and misrepresent yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
Because human beings love freedom. Even God gives us freedom. It's the least you can get. I read an article by Benjamin Zulu just recently, and he was saying that, men, society is a bit unfair on women. So anyway, he was saying men, like, if you sleep around as a woman, the men, like, they are very territorial and very egoistical, and so they will feel like they can't trust you, or the relationship rather can't work if you've been sleeping around previously.
Yes, the sexual double standard, yes.
Yes. So I don't know, how does that play in a marriage? Like, should a woman...
Again, it comes down to values. What values are there in your particular culture, your particular society? Because, again, if you're not... you have the rest of your life with this person. Why are you running? Where are you running? Yeah? So if in your culture, different cultures allow different things. In some cultures, you cannot be seen holding hands. In some cultures, kissing is a no-no. There are people who kiss the first time at the altar. Yeah. So it depends on your culture and your values.
Yeah.
There is no hard and fast rule. This has to be done at a particular point. Yeah. But again, remember, in relationships, it's like the same relationship think of a parent-child relationship. Children do not do what the parents say. Children copy the behavior of the parents. Yeah. Children do what parents do. Same thing in a relationship. You can say a lot of things, you can discuss values and everything, but if you do not act in accordance with what you actually, who you actually are, this person will meet a different person.
Yeah.
If you do not hold a boundary, if, for example, let's say I have a very basic boundary. I do not allow people to shout at me. Right?
Yeah.
So if you shout at me day 1 and I let it happen, day 2, day 3, you will continue with that behavior, right? And at that point, it's no longer a boundary, it's a preference. I will have allowed you to do it. Yeah?
Yeah.
So if you keep that as just a preference, of course, people will always walk all over it.
Yeah.
if you let your child take snacks before bedtime, or take soda, for example, and get sugar rush, if they keep doing it, they'll know, mom just says we shouldn't take soda, but it's
allows
okay.
it,
She will get away with it, you know?
Yeah.
So same thing. That's why you find there was this man who has been annoyed by the wife for 9 years before. Now he's like, no, now I'm walking out. Because it was not, he didn't set a boundary. It was just a preference,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So same thing in a relationship. Whatever you do is what is seen.
Yeah.
So if this person in his cultural, in his cultural background, he thinks that if a woman has sex with me before marriage, that then he will assume, oh yes, okay, this kind of woman has had sex with a million people,
Yeah.
and therefore I don't think it's really the kind of person I want for long term. So it depends on the cultural schemas in the person's mind. Yeah. Or you could say, if this man is trying to have sex with me and he's known me for 5 minutes,
That's what he does.
I might think he's loose. You get what I'm saying? So it's all culture specific.
Yeah.
In some cultures, it's like, hey, she's holding hands with me. What is this?
Yeah.
In some cultures, it's like exclusive sex from sex from day one, pretty standard. So it all depends.
Yeah.
In some cultures, it's even about how you dress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
so culture plays a big role in
it plays a
marriages,
very big role. This woman has her hair uncovered. I think she might not be very trustworthy. You know, there are those schemes. So you need to make sure, if you're going for long term, you know the values and culture you're trying to have that long term in. Those are things we don't even think about.
Okay, it is, yeah, true.
And yes, if those are the values you want to have that long term in, stick to those, stick to those boundaries that you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how can you navigate culture? By learning it and deciding if, okay. So sex is also is sex important? Like sexual compatibility, is there such a thing?
Yes.
And if it's important, how do you determine you're sexually compatible with a person? If, like, for people who like, they're very religious and they don't want to have sex before marriage, how do they determine that? Because they can avoid it, then they get to it and they're sexually incompatible.
Now that's a huge discussion. I think maybe we'd need to do it in a different,
segment.
a different segment. But what I can say is, in terms of sexual compatibility, many people who divorce or separate or break up in long-term relationships, it's usually, the sex is not usually the problem most of the time. Most of the time, communication is always, of course, plays a role. And of course, there is, different people going in different directions, people growing in different directions. People are no longer on the same boat. Yes. So when it comes to, sexual compatibility and determining it, if you're in a culture that, what's it called? In a culture where sex is not done outside of marriage. Now that would need further deliberation on, how to make sure you're going into marriage with a partner who you're compatible with. And also, some of this purity culture bring the aspect of sexual repression. Sexual repression is when the sexual part of you is so repressed that you might think sex is dirty, evil, impure. You try to avoid it. You just developing other attitudes towards sex that are unhealthy. So that would be a different aspect to address for a couple in such a culture before they actually do get into the marriage.
And finance?
Finances, for sure. There are, in fact, finances are the biggest number of conflicts in a marriage are usually financial. You might find people, you spend money differently.
Yeah.
And also your beliefs or your fears and anxieties around money might rub your partner the wrong way. Remember the vicious cycle
Yeah.
of, the avoidant lady and the anxiously attached man.
Yeah.
So you could find same scenario. If the lady is avoidant, you don't want to sit down and do your finances when they are constrained.
Yeah.
Like, no, I can't handle that. So you're living beyond your means, you're getting into debt, but you don't want to face. Then the anxious one is like, no, my wife, why does my girlfriend not want to sit down and deal with this?
Yeah.
How you act about money might be triggering even his anxiety
Yes.
still. Because you'll find you'll go somewhere, you'll be like, oh, yeah, what's there? Yeah, I'm hungry, I need to eat, I need to drink. You just order without bothering about the cost. So that triggers their fears about money.
Yes.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
He accounts to the last shilling.
Yes.
And you go, and now you start, reacting like, this man is so boring. What is this?
Yes.
Can you leave a little?
Yeah.
So those are the conflicts that still play out.
And family dynamics.
In what sense?
In-laws, extended family.
Now that's something that comes up.
Yeah.
Now, if you're able to discuss culture, people, try to, meet people, try to see how things are handled. It really helps in learning how to deal with, especially difficult in-laws from the other side. These are things you discuss in a marriage. You need to get to a point. Before you get into it, you need to discuss how you're going to balance. You might need to balance how often do we see my parents? How often do we see your parents? So those are things that communication is key in terms of discussing that.
Wow. Any parting shots? I feel like
Parting shot.
that's a huge discussion.
Parting shot is muache haraka. Have those difficult conversations. Have the conversations. Yourself, your body, that's the most important thing that you have in your life. Your home life is your real life. Your work life, you can be replaced tomorrow. Yeah?
Yeah.
So have those difficult conversations. Do your research.
Yeah.
Take your time. That's the thing that's going to take a big portion of your life.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you wrapped it so well that I don't have anything to say, but it's for the rest of your life. So let's take time. Let's take time. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. We're going to pin down Caroline's email address, telephone number, location, just in case you need her. So that's it for today. Any questions, feedback, any other topics you'd like us to discuss, kindly share. Our email address will also be there below. Thank you so much, and cheers. Bye-bye.
Until next time.
Till next time.